What's bound to happen when someone enters the classroom ready to break the rules? And how long can the teacher keep his feelings in check when a student starts showing him special attention? Let's find out. At the beginning of the film, we meet a middle-aged school teacher named Joseph Sven. In his childhood, he had an injury, which left him limping and walking with a cane. He lived on a farm with his elderly mother and took care of the usual household chores. When he arrives at school, he tells his students that the school may close soon. At this moment, a new 18-year-old student named Catherine Wheeler enters the class.
Who might you be?
Catherine Wheeler?
After work, Joseph discusses the closure of the school with Rosalie, a widow whose husband had passed away. Joseph had been taking care of her and even planned to marry her. The next morning, a man named Nathan Wheeler, a retired major and Catherine's father, arrives at Joseph's farm.
No, it's Swedish.
He wants to board Catherine's horse at Joseph's stable and is even willing to pay $175 a month. Joseph, of course, agrees. Later, Joseph drives Catherine and tells her that this is his last year as a teacher. She asks what else he can do, but Joseph doesn't know how to answer, and she promises to find out. It is at this moment that she starts having inappropriate thoughts. Later that day, Dr. Evans visits Joseph's mother to bring her medicine. He confides in Joseph that her condition will only get worse and that she has only a few months to live. It would be better for her to stay in the hospital. The next day, after work, Joseph goes to the stable and finds Catherine waiting for him silently in the loft.
You knew I was here.
You're right.
He joins her there, where she hints at her feelings, attempting to catch his attention with a subtle gesture. Joseph immediately walks away, wanting to stay true to his principles. However, after some reflection, he realizes his life has become monotonous, and perhaps adding a bit of excitement wouldn't hurt. He returns, and he and Catherine share a special moment of closeness. A few days later, the school board informs Joseph that since he hasn't completed his professional development courses, he won't be able to teach in city schools. Joseph is not bothered by this, tells the board members off, and goes home. Later, Dr. Evans visits Joseph and tells him that Major Wheeler, who also loves hunting, spotted a coyote in the area. Evans decides to gift Joseph his hunting rifle as he is too old to hunt. During one of his lessons, Joseph assigns his students to write essays. Catherine uses this opportunity to write that she wants to meet him, as she has something important to tell him. Later, while driving, Joseph gets angry at Catherine for leaving such an open note, fearing that someone might find out about their relationship. At first, he thought she might be pregnant, but Catherine denies it.
I'm not in the mood. Don't.
Eventually, she jokes that she is pregnant, which shocks Joseph. He doesn't know how to handle the situation or explain it to others, but fortunately for him, it was just a joke. Catherine isn't pregnant. One morning, Catherine gives Joseph a bottle of 20-year-old bourbon as a gift. He accepts it and asks about her mother. Catherine steers the conversation away from her past, especially her mother's struggles, and shifts the focus back to Joseph. Sometime later, Dr. Evans unexpectedly walks into the stable and finds them together. Afterward, Joseph and Evans meet at a cafe. Evans is shocked by what he saw and asks how long it's been going on. Joseph tells him everything, and Evans warns him that if he doesn't end it, he will have serious problems. Moreover, Joseph has Rosalie, who is waiting for him to propose. After the school party, Rosalie invites Joseph to her home to spend some time together in bed, as he likes, but he refuses, and Rosalie leaves, feeling hurt. When Joseph returns home, his mother mentions that she knows about his relationship with young Catherine and asks how long it will continue. Joseph is lucky once again as he avoids answering when his mother starts feeling unwell. After his mother's words, Joseph finally reflects on what he's done, and gathering himself, he goes to Rosalie to apologize. He explains that the last time he refused her was because his mother needed help. However, Rosalie suspects that this isn't true. Joseph then justifies himself, saying that people his age go through changes and realize that they haven't done what they truly wanted. He shares his dream of visiting a quiet ocean shore away from everyone where he can relax and fish peacefully. Finally, he admits that he wishes, just once, to share a tender moment with her in the daylight. Rosalie apologizes for disappointing him, but after giving it some thought, she gives in to her feelings and fulfills Joseph's wish. Later, Joseph's mother dies, and after the funeral, while Rosalie is going through the condolence cards, she finds a note from Catherine. Upon reading it, she realizes that Joseph has been unfaithful. She goes outside and accuses Joseph of cheating. He tries to justify himself by saying that there was nothing serious with Catherine, that she was just a small fling, and that Rosalie is much more important to him.
I hope you die!
But this doesn't convince Rosalie, and she pushes him away before leaving.
Joseph?
That same evening, Catherine comes to see him. She found out what happened and says she wants them to get married. Joseph, however, wants to end their relationship. Catherine warns him that he'll regret this.
You'll be sorry.
The next day, Joseph learns that Nathan, Catherine's father, knows everything and won't let it go easily. That evening, Joseph takes the hunting rifle that was gifted to him and waits for Nathan to show up. When Nathan arrives with his wife, he just wants to talk. He asks Joseph if he plans to marry Catherine, but Joseph replies that he doubts he's her type. In the end, Nathan says he's learned that Joseph is a decent man and that it's not entirely his fault but also Catherine's. However, Nathan's wife disagrees. She slaps Joseph in the face and says he took advantage of Catherine. Nathan doesn't want to make a big deal out of the situation and suggests they part ways peacefully. After they leave, Catherine reappears and asks Joseph if he'll marry her, but Joseph tells her that what they had was just a small fling, and they have no future together because he's too old and she's too young and doesn't even know what she wants. Catherine then kisses him and says she's done something bad.
Look.
When Joseph steps outside, he sees the barn on fire. He manages to save the cow, but Catherine's horse dies in the flames. The next day, Joseph decides to change his life. He reconciles with Rosalie, telling her that he loves only her and she forgives him. In the end, they both go to the ocean, where they decide to live out the rest of their lives together. That's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share your thoughts about the movie in the comments. See you soon.
He stretched out one hand and placed it on the dying man, then stretched out his other hand and grabbed the police officer. In an instant, an electric current passed through the bodies of both of them. The next second, the deer's feelings were transmitted to the police officer. He let out a wail and fell to the ground, twitching. The pain of the dying struggle was heartbreaking. This is Reed's fourth superpower, telepathy. He broke free from Reed's hand, as if he had been through 1,000 tortures. As the messenger, Reed also felt the pain, but there was only endless compassion in his heart. From then on, the police officer never went hunting again. When the sheriff learned about this, he approached Reed. It turned out that his wife had been paralyzed for many years and could not speak or move. Recently, her life came to an end. The doctor said that every minute and every second he was overwhelmed by the great reluctance to leave, the unwillingness to leave, the suffering of his lover. The sheriff wanted to ask Lee Day for help and told him about his wife's obsession. Lee Day came to the bedside. He gently placed his hand on the woman's forehead, sensing what he was thinking. The reason why his wife was reluctant to leave was because she was worried about their son. The gap between father and son made him reluctant to take his last breath. The sheriff, who knew everything, held his wife's hand tightly and passed on the message through Lee Day. The couple finished their final conversation. After hearing the sheriff's promise, his wife left the world forever. Upon hearing the bad news, the son rushed home. What was different from the past was that this time he got a hug from his father. The father and son finally put aside their past grudges and reconciled. It was such a heartwarming scene. Reed could not help but think of his childhood, and he felt unspeakable pain in his heart. The residents who were walking aimlessly on the street with Reed avoided him, thinking that the sheriff's residence could do it, and he could not avoid it. Due to deep fear and prejudice, only the kind-hearted female classmates believed Lee Day and were willing to be friends with him. Their fingers intertwined, and their hearts were connected. Lin Shi knew that Lee Day's father had abandoned him and also felt his loneliness and sadness. Lee Day asked Lin Shi if he thought he was ugly like his father, but Lin Shi said he was the most beautiful person he had ever seen. Lee Day, who had always been called a freak, was completely melted by this sentence. They couldn't help but kiss each other. Unexpectedly, this scene happened to be seen by the girl's father. How could he allow the girl to associate with such a monster? So he directly grabbed Lee Day's clothes. Lisa ran over and stopped everything in time, but as soon as the female classmate left, she was grabbed by the bully's clothes. Several people began to bully her and insult her. When her anger reached its extreme, the energy in her body exploded, and the bully was out of breath. He walked over to the man, used electricity in his hands to turn it into defibrillator oil, pressed it several times, and finally, the man woke up. After something like this happened, I couldn't stay in the welfare home any longer. He walked back to his home and opened the door. All the things in the house had been moved out, but he still went into the basement where he had lived for 18 years. When Lisa arrived, Reed was sitting in the basement in a daze, which had been cleared out long ago. He comforted Reed intimately, saying that when turbidity became a normal state, innocence is a sin. Reed was like a helpless child nestling in Lisa's arms and crying. At this time, a storm suddenly came, and Reed ran forward like the wind. As a flash of lightning pierced through her whole body kept shining until it turned into a colorful rainbow. A colorful line. Is it a test for disability? This black caregiver poured boiling water on the boss's legs. After the housekeeper came out to stop him, he said in disbelief that he was doing an experiment, applying foot cream on the boss's head instead of shampoo. But he applied shampoo on his feet. These are his routine operations, and his series of unreliable behaviors goes far beyond this. In order to see the beautiful woman, he fed the food into the boss's eyes. However, the boss liked such an unruly caregiver very much and even couldn't do without him. The female doctor asked him to carry his boss to the wheelchair. He just put it down and went to show off to the female doctor, almost making his boss fall head over heels. Although Xiao He was very unreliable, he never treated the rich man as a disabled person and even made fun of him by using the rich man's leggings and stockings. After complaining, he reluctantly put on protective gear for the rich man. Looking at the special car for the disabled in front of him, Xiao He refused. He said that he didn't want to stuff the rich man into the trunk like a piece of luggage. This unintentional remark gave the rich man the respect he had never had before. Then, he set his eyes on the Lamborghini next to him. He carried the rich man to the passenger seat, and the passionate noise made them even more unscrupulous. Unexpectedly, as soon as he went out, he met his neighbor who parked his car casually and blocked the exit. The rich man was very troubled by this, but the young and hot-tempered Xiao He would not tolerate it. He first said, "No, no, 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 no. La bonne méthode du tout remplacement." After arriving at the exhibition, he started to complain about the vision of the rich. In his eyes, this painting was just a pool of someone else's nosebleed and could not be sold for 30,000 yuan. He even boasted that he could make a better one. The rich man didn't want to argue with him, so he asked him to give him a chocolate, but he didn't expect that this would become a point of laughter for the rich man. That night, the rich man's painful voice was transmitted to Xiao He through the baby call device. Xiao He got up and went to the rich man's room. He found that the rich man was gasping for breath in pain. He applied a hot towel to the rich man's head and comforted him, and he fell asleep slowly. This seemingly unreliable man did not disappoint once trust was placed in him. Xiao He guarded him for several hours until the rich man woke up again in pain and shouted for air. At this time, Xiao He took the rich man out, and the two of them walked in the fresh air under the light. This was the first time he realized Xiao He's responsibility and meticulousness. Seeing the girl going out at midnight, both of them became excited at the same time. It turned out that they had the same hobby. The rich man suddenly felt unwell again, and a cigarette on Xiao He's face made him feel extremely relaxed and comfortable. You know, other caregivers wouldn't even let him smell the cigarette smoke. That night, the two had their first long talk, chatting about women and the body. Xiao He made a sarcastic joke from time to time, which made the rich man throw away everything and pour out all the bitterness he had experienced over the years. After his wife had 5 miscarriages, he went hang gliding to relax. But one time something unfortunate happened, and she died on the spot. He was paralyzed all over, and what he couldn't get over was not only the pain of the illness, but also the departure of his wife. The first time Xiao He was asked, the rich man discovered that Xiao He was responsible and passionate, which brought him great comfort. Xiao He always laughs at the rich man for writing letters to other friends, saying that he is out of touch with reality. He even calls other people's phones without permission and asks the rich man to answer the call. Let the rich take the first step in pursuing the goddess. He disliked the rich man's wheelchair because it was too slow, so he modified it. The two of them drove the wheelchairs around the city, experiencing speed and passion. The rich man's daughter was dumped by her boyfriend with a feather duster and was severely humiliated. Xiaohei knew that the rich man had no time to take care of his daughter. He took the initiative to find the feather duster and gave him a lesson, and asked him to apologize by delivering breakfast to the rich man's daughter every day. The rich man's birthday is coming soon. Xiaohei thinks he has been influenced by art, so he decides to draw a picture for the rich man as a gift. It's true, a former gangster is quite cute when he starts to do art. The final product is a bit abstract, and everyone can tell at first glance that it was drawn by him. But it's not him. The rich man introduced the flowers to his friends, claiming that they were the masterpieces of a certain master and that he would take them to an exhibition in London. My friend thought that this was similar to the airbrush blood painting and that it was a work of art not to be missed, so he spent $11,050 to buy it. The rich man gave the money for the comics to Xiaohei, which was enough for him to brag about for 3 years. He didn't know whether the rich man really understood art, but he knew that the rich man wanted to help him. Xiaohei, who was used to listening to dull symphonies, played pop music and started dancing with the usually serious servants, giving the rich man a birthday party he had never had before. Xiaohei's nursing work was also getting better and better.